open up that Crystal Pepsi and get comfortable.
This is Dope Nostalgia.
Episode 285 of the Dope Nostalgia podcast. We are a proud member of the 604 Podcast Network. And my name is Naomi, your host. Some more amazing Canadiana today with the Northern Pikes. Don Schmid, their drummer, he's been there since the beginning, and he's here today to talk about all things with the Northern Pikes. They are on tour right now. They just played this weekend that just passed at Pigeon Lake Music Festival. I had posted a video about that on our social media just so you guys could know about it ahead of time. But they have more gigs coming up this summer, so make sure you check them out. And here's a little bit of background information on the Northern Pikes. Wikipedia moment.
Please bear in mind that Wikipedia can be edited by anyone at any time. If I am reading you the artist's bio, then you know it's information straight from the source.
If you grew up listening to Canadian radio like I did, the music of the Northern Pikes is already woven into the soundtrack of your life. Formed in Saskatoon back in 1984, the band became a cornerstone of Canadian rock and pop, driven by 4 gold LPs, 8 hit singles, and their standout platinum-selling 1990 album, Snow in June. Now, decades later, the band is taking a moment to look back and reimagine where it all began with their album, Time to Time. Originally intended as a 30th anniversary celebration for Snow in June in 2020, the project was sidelined by pandemic delays until the band could finally gather face-to-face in Nova Scotia. What started as an idea for a simple, around-the-campfire acoustic project quickly evolved into something much richer. The Pikes completely deconstructed their classic hits, retooling tempos, shifting keys, and bringing in traditional textures like mandolin, banjo, and dobro, alongside guest violin and keyboard performances. The result is a fresh, intimate look at iconic tracks. You'll hear a lilting, reimagined version of top 20 hit Kiss Me You Fool, featuring Grapes of Wrath co-founder Kevin Kane, who joined the band full-time in 2007 on lead vocals. Their signature top 10 anthem, She Ain't Pretty, retains its driving rhythm while embracing a warm acoustic twang. Meanwhile, the deeply personal Girl with a Problem, written by bassist Jay Semko, about his own journey through addiction, receives a hauntingly atmospheric, stripped-back arrangement. Beyond the reimagined classics, the album introduces 3 brand new tracks that seamlessly blend into the track list. The spoken word influenced Only a Lover's Dream, the emotional folk rock tribute to loss, The Things You Saw in Me, and the meditative closing track, Taken. Core members Jay Semko, Brian Potvin, and Don Schmid, who have been playing together on and off since 1986, along with Kevin Kane, prove that even 4 decades in, they aren't just coasting on nostalgia. Time to Time isn't just a trip down memory lane, it's a living testament to a band undergoing a creative renaissance. Keep an ear out for the Northern Pikes as they take these new arrangements on the road through 2026. You can catch them all over the country. But let's welcome to the show today their drummer, Don Schmid, right here on Dope Nostalgia.
Hello.
Hi, Don. Nice to meet
Naomi.
you.
How you doing?
I'm good. Where are you coming from?
I'm coming to you from Harrison Mills, BC, just outside of Vancouver, about an hour to the east in the Fraser Valley.
Is it nice and hot there today?
Well, must be about close to 30, but it's going to get hot in the next week, apparently.
I'm in Edmonton and it's 29 right now.
Well, that's probably about roughly what we are. Any fires nearby where you are?
Not yet. Not too bad anyways. Like we're not getting any smoke at the moment. But that always
That's
changes
good.
quickly, right?
Yeah. We were just out there or near there. We played in Cold Lake for Canada Day, and then we're coming back on August 1st. We play in Mulhurst Bay at the Pigeon Lake Music Festival.
Really?
On August 2nd, yeah.
Okay. I knew you were coming. I saw Mulhurst and I did not know where that was. And
Yeah,
I'm
it's just
like,
south
I'm
of
from
the
Alberta.
yeah, south of the Edmonton airport, about maybe 30 minutes,
Mhm.
and then a bit to the east or to the west, sorry, southwest. Yeah, it's the
Good.
Pigeon Lake Music Festival. It's a big 3-day event, actually. The day that we're playing in front of the Tea Party.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, which should be good, actually. Yeah.
Yes. Well, anyways, this is a podcast about the 90s primarily, but also what our artists doing today. Now, you
Hmm.
guys were out there doing your thing in the late 80s and
Yeah.
had two albums that before that era. So tell me about growing up in Saskatoon's music scene and what it's like now.
Mm. Well, I've moved away quite a few years ago now, but growing up in Saskatoon in the 70s, I was born in 61. So in the early 70s, coming around 10 years old, 10, 12 years old is really when I started to get involved in loving music in a great way. I was a hockey player ever since I could walk. My older brothers taught me how to skate. So I was definitely my younger years, like right from 6 years old till about 14. I played hockey all the time and was pretty good because I just learned how to skate early.
Mm.
So especially in those days, you only had 2 games indoor a year, one before Christmas and one after. So you'd be playing
Oh,
outdoor and the wind would be blowing. And I remember I had a long toque on and you're skating down and your toque's flying in the air. And it was crazy, kids playing. It was like really cold. Like, you go in between periods and your feet are frozen. My friend's dad would take my skates off and rub my feet and just, you'd be crying. It was just, and then you go back out again. So
mhm.
after, once I started playing drums really in grade 8. So by that time I was 14 years old and I kind of lost my desire for hockey because I'm a small guy in size. And back then kids were getting bigger and they were starting to learn how to skate pretty good by grade 8. So,
Mm.
my total focus switched from hockey to music in grade 8, really, basically. And in those years in Saskatoon, big concerts would go right from Calgary, Edmonton, right over to Winnipeg. They'd miss Regina and Saskatoon completely. So there wasn't um, a lot of groups to really see and learn from. I mean, we had a theater called the Centennial Auditorium, which is still there. It's TCU Place now, and you know, um, I remember seeing my very first concert there was Kenny Rogers in the first edition before, and then
Mm.
April Wine and Edward Bear and saw Tease a lot. They came through. He kind of went to whoever came through. And so the first band I was in started in grade 8. A friend of mine, Larry Burke, moved to my school in Saskatoon, and he could play guitar and he could play songs that were on the radio, which. I'd never met at 14 years old anyone else that could ever do that. So my older brother Roger, who's 4 years older than me, had a drum set in the house. So, I invited Larry to come over, and my dad had an electric guitar and a microphone and an amplifier. Everything was from Sears. It was all Silvertone equipment, and
Oh,
the
yeah.
drums were as well, sparkle red Silvertone drums. So we put a colored light in my bedroom, and I had posters of Alice Cooper and many different uh, current local, or sorry, not local, but current artists that were happening. I took all my hockey posters down and put up music poster, rock posters. Had fishnet hanging from the ceiling of my bedroom. And the first
Mm.
song we played was Proud Mary by Creedence, just guitar and drums, and Larry sang. Larry was a good singer, he was a good guitar player. And that started it for me. That started my real love and desire to be in a band. And what I really dreamt about in those days was just being in a band that actually recorded albums and made albums. That was really the big thrill for me. It wasn't ever did I think about making any money. It really, at 14 years old, I had a paper route. So I mean,
Mm.
and that was my first job of making money was delivering the Star Phoenix papers. Hi, Kitty. What's your cat's
Oh,
name?
he's here.
Yeah,
This is Milo. He's,
Milo.
I call him the
Ah,
pod cat.
a podcat. Hi,
He likes
Milo.
to join in for interviews. So,
Well, that's fine, actually. Yeah. So,
But
and getting back to the early 70s in Saskatoon, so yeah, it was, not a lot of groups came through playing live. So we were really, and I think with the Northern Pikes, part of our sound and originality came from that fact that you had to, and there weren't videos on TV or there weren't even computers around. So it's hard to think back to a time when the only way you could see a group was live, or occasionally Don Kirshner's rock concert was on television once a week. And so that was, or a midnight special.
oh,
That was the only way that you saw artists that you were listening to, on record. And that's the other thing too, is you bought records. Like you actually physically had copies of music. That was again the only way besides listening to the radio. But I remember, and I bought a lot of 45s actually. Those were popular, like,
mhm.
not just albums, although I bought a lot of albums too, but 45s because they were cheaper. I think they might have been maybe $2, but albums were like $10 at least, and even went up to more than that as years went by. But so it was an investment. Whereas now, I'm a subscriber to Apple Music and have tried Spotify and different platforms and seem to always come back to Apple.
Mhm.
And you can just, I mean, everything is possible now. You can get any kind of music you want and you stream it. And, it's an interesting thing being a music listener as well as a musician. You have to, how do you, people ask me, how do you like you know, the, the networks, Spotify, Apple, YouTube. I mean, there's so many of them that when I put music up online, I usually just subscribe to all of them. And I figure that, why would you want to maybe single something out, one of the different services? But so I just wish they had a more fair way to distribute the profits with the musicians.
Exactly.
Because if there was no music there, I mean, people wouldn't be there, right?
Hmm.
Subscribing. So other than that, I love the system. I love that your devices, I'm on an iPad now, I got an iPhone here, and you take it in the car, you take it anywhere and share it with people. And if you like if you're listening to the certain artist, suggestions come up, you might like this. And I've discovered many groups that way just because it sounds maybe similar to something you're already listening to.
The accessibility for general public is a really nice thing that streaming does bring. But you're
Hmm.
right, the profits need to be distributed more fairly because
Yeah,
it's like one or two guys sitting up there at the top who hardly did anything, making
I
all
know
this
it's kind
money.
of crazy.
Yeah.
And I think the only way that that could ever happen is the major artists, Paul McCartney, Neil Young, and Neil Young has done it before. He's taken stuff down off of Spotify, and Joni
Yeah.
Mitchell, and a lot of those the major artists, if they took their music down, smaller artists would follow. And I think, and then just the objective would be to force the companies, the streaming services, to come up with a different deal and
Mhm.
and equal, or not equally, but just fairly distribute the money. But I don't think that will ever happen. So you just have to, playing live now. I mean, that's how we make money with the Pikes. I mean, we
Mhm.
sell a bit of merch too, but it costs to buy the merch. It's reasonably expensive. I mean, so
Yep.
our last album that we made, we financed it totally ourselves, time to time. And it's expensive to make records. Not
Yeah.
as much as what we did in the 80s and 90s, but we had Virgin Records. We were signed to in 1996 to Virgin, and we had a 6-album deal. And we only did 4 albums, and then the band actually did break up from 1993 till 2000.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's I had questions about that coming up.
Okay, well, yeah, maybe I'll just let you steer the
No,
interview how you want to go,
that's all good. Because I was just gonna say, I also wanted to say, I know that the artist Jay-Z tried to do something with his streaming service called Tidal and tried to
Yeah.
get a bunch of other big artists on there.
but that didn't really work out either.
Yeah, from what I know, a few people that are on Tidal, and I think Tidal started initially with basically lossless files, like that's the best quality of the music file you could get.
Yeah.
Whereas in the early days with Apple, with iTunes and Spotify, the MP3s were just of less quality. Now with those services, you can get lossless FLAC files.
Mhm.
So I mean, I think it really takes a good stereo system to really, to sit down. I mean, I've tried it. I'm not an audiophile necessarily, but I don't really, I don't find when I listen to songs on Apple Music that, gee, I wish this sounded better. It always sounds fine to me,
Yeah.
so
No, I agree.
but it could be argued that, I mean, that's the thing with vinyl, and they've become popular the last maybe 10 or 15 years, maybe even longer. Um, But I think a lot of people that buy our vinyl, they buy them, we sign them. It's like it's a collector's item in some ways. I don't even know if some people have a turntable, they just like to collect
Yeah.
vinyl,
Some
you
people
know.
want to hang it up on the wall.
Yeah, yeah.
It's true.
And that's the thing about vinyl. I remember as a kid, you bought something new, you'd bring it home, especially when they opened up, like the album cover. Kiss Alive, like the first, I remember buying the first Kiss Alive album, and that was a big deal because I mean, Kiss was all about the theatrics and the visual. I mean, as well as, they were a decent band for what they did. I mean, they had a unique
Mhm.
sound. But just to sit, and then lyrics would be included usually with records, and you'd sit and listen and you'd read through the lyrics. And, but nowadays that you don't do that. I mean, you can find lyrics online, but it's a different experience. Like actually taking the vinyl out of the packaging, putting it on the turntable, and I had the brush that cleaned the record and all that stuff.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
it
clean
was
that
a, it was
needle.
a it was something to do, it was actually yeah, there was an art to playing and listening to records.
I have a small vinyl collection, but one thing I was going to note that was that you're paying 50 or $60 for a brand new vinyl album now.
Hmm.
But this album was made digitally, transferred onto vinyl. This is
Mm,
the analog quality is what's missing
yeah.
in the actual recording process. Isn't that the case?
Usually, yeah. I mean, some studios still run on 2-inch 24-track studio recording machines, but they're few
Mm.
and far between because um, again, that changed totally. And we did Big Blue Sky, well, the Independence for sure. Big Blue Sky, Secrets of the Alibi, Snow and June. Actually, Snow and June
Mhm.
was already on 48-track digital at Bearsville Studio in Woodstock, New York.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
and that's where Meatloaf had recorded Bat Out of Hell a few years earlier, so that was a big deal. Mind you, Meatloaf, apparently, from what the engineers were telling us, that was on analog still, and he strapped two 24-track Studer 2-inch machines together. And the problem with what they used to call them, well, it was the syncing issue, right? You'd start up the tape. You'd always have to have like 10, 12 seconds of pre-roll because it would take
Mhm.
3, 4, 5, 6 seconds to line them up.
Ah,
So they're playing in sync. Otherwise, it doesn't work. I mean, you're hearing stuff that's out of sync depending what's on the first machine or the second machine.
mhm.
So once 48-track digital appeared, mind you, that was still, let me think for a second. That was still tape actually. It was a 48
Yeah.
track. I remember our engineer actually, he did an edit on the 48-track digital tape, and it was quite the thing. And that's the other thing too, is about, you talk about editing. When you were doing it in those days, it was on tape and you were cutting and splicing and taping together. And I
Mm.
filmed like the engineers doing that. It was just such an amazing art because you're
Yeah.
you're you're toggling the tape back and forth and you're hearing just the woo sounds, and you're lining up based on usually drum hits or any kind of sound like that, that's like a clap slate. Like you can hear just that actual spot, and bang, that's where you'd cut and you'd splice. And
Mm.
because if you did it wrong, I mean, you'd have to go back and multi-splice it then, right?
Mm.
And nowadays, I mean, it's been quite a long time actually since digital actual recording has been around. But when you edit, it's non-destructive. You go, oh, that's the wrong spot. You just go backwards and you just do it again. So
Just seconds away. Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, good and bad in all things. I mean, and now with AI, we're in a whole new era now where, wow.
Scary.
Well, it is actually, it is on many levels a scary situation, but what do you do? Do you just totally avoid it or do you try to work with it?
I
I mean, I
think you
guess
have
that's
to
what,
work with it, but try to use it for good and not evil.
well, that's it, right? I mean, we drive a Tesla electric car now, my wife and I. So it's like, I mean,
Hmm.
and it's so wonderful. It's such a great, and we've traveled to Saskatoon back and forth in Vancouver multiple times, and you have to pay attention more to your mileage where you're at, right?
Yeah.
And outside of that, it's wonderful. It's the one of the greatest things about it is pet mode, and we have a dog comes with us everywhere we go. So pet mode keeps your climate either cool in the summer or warm in the winter, and there's no pollution, right? So that's a
Yeah.
wonderful thing about it.
I am a fan of that vehicle, but I don't have one yet.
Yeah. Well, I would recommend it. I wish Elon Musk was again a decent person, but it
Right.
seems to happen to people when you get so wealthy. It's just, I don't know. I don't know what happens to us as humans, but something does change and you want more. But how can you want more money when you're the richest man in the world? It seems crazy, you know?
You would hope that you would be giving it away more than you have so much more
Yeah.
than you could spend. You should be giving it
Yeah.
to people who need it. So
Yeah. And
that's
Warren
what you,
Buffett's
that's,
done some of that. I think Bill Gates has done some of that. And
yeah.
it just needs to, I know you could help so much for good, you know?
Once again, good, not evil
Yeah,
in
yeah, it's
tech.
true. Yeah.
What's one of the favorite recording studios you worked in? Speaking of the recording sessions and watching the analog splicing and dicing and all of that.
Yeah. Well, actually, in truth, every studio has been interesting and exciting in its own way, even the smallest ones, because it's you're recording music there. That's the magic of it. It almost
Hmm.
doesn't matter the room necessarily. It's the fact of just the process of, in our case, a band. Usually we try to play live, and get a bed track. That was the main focus. And that's usually how most artists do it when you're a band anyway, is you try to get that. I was listening to the new Rolling Stones, the three guys, Mick and Keith and Ron Wood, doing an interview about their latest record.
Mm.
And, they try to do everything, the bed tracks live. And you can't replace that interaction when guys or women are playing together. It's just, there's something that happens.
Yeah.
Bearsville in Woodstock was an amazing studio that was built by Albert Grossman, the late Albert Grossman, who managed Bob Dylan, the band. The
Mm.
band recorded around that area many times, and lots of great records were made there. The neat thing about that is sometimes studios are in the wilderness and sometimes they're in the city. So that was the
Yeah.
nice thing about Bearsville. It was in the Catskills, um, about an hour outside of New York, basically,
Mm.
near the town of Woodstock. The town is actually called Bearsville. It's actually a little town.
Mm.
I'm not sure if it's a hamlet or a town, but it's very small, smaller than Woodstock. And that's where this studio was. And just that atmosphere of we stayed there, we lived on site it took snow in June. We spent, I think, 3 months there in the fall of 1989 recording that record. But
Wow.
the first 2 weeks, we were just rehearsing in what they called the barn. It was a big, and you stayed in that building as well. Really neat place. It had a spiral staircase to go upstairs where the bedrooms were. And they had a great little PA system, little small little PA system. So a band could come in there, set up all their gear, and it'd be like playing in a small club in some ways. And yet that
Mm.
was the rehearsal place. And well, actually, I don't think they had any recording gear set up in there. We had a DAT player and a mixer, and so we recorded everything live to two-track DAT. Um, and I'll never forget, we were doing our second record, Secrets of the Alibi, there in '88, and Pursuit of Happiness came. We were rehearsing. They came and finished, recorded and mixed their whole album, and we were still rehearsing.
Really?
Yeah. So, I mean, we had big budgets in those days, and,
Thanks, Virgin.
Exactly. Thanks, Virgin. Yeah.
Mhm.
We're still paying for it, I must say. But,
That's what I
just,
always hear in these stories.
yeah,
It
yeah, we
seems like
had
a good deal, but then it's like, oh, you bought that lobster dinner. You didn't know you did.
exactly. And yeah, we had good 5-course meals with the nice lady that cooked for us there. And,
Hmm.
and it got to a point where it became a running joke in some ways with the band, put it on our tab, because it gets to a point where the point of no return, you just, but bless Doug Chappelle, the president of Virgin Records. He's passed away now. He was a bass player himself, Doug. He played in a
Yeah.
band called Richie and the Midnights in the late 60s, early 70s. And he saw in us, what a lot of people didn't. He wasn't afraid to, after he signed us in 1986, he was never afraid to spend any money that he thought was proper money spent. Let's put it that way. He was very successful for the company, and he was with A&M before that, and he had a
Okay.
good track record as an A&R guy, and so he became the president of Virgin when he went over there. And so, I mean, Virgin had Phil Collins. So in Canada, Doug did really well. So with other groups, which gave him, I mean, it's a business, right? It's how business works, is you need to make money so that you can, on these smaller projects, you can spend the money to try to develop young artists.
Yes.
And so we always loved Doug. He'd come to the studio and he'd put on headphones and fire up a reefer, and he would just get into he was so into the music, like and he just let us pretty much, he would give suggestions, but wouldn't really dictate anything at all. He just
Yeah.
liked the way that we operated as a band, and he just let us go. And that's very rare, extremely rare from what
And
I've
a
heard.
label head. That is pretty incredible.
Yeah. Again, those were in the late 80s or mid 80s, early 90s, and times were different then. But I feel sorry in a way for young artists now, because the idea of getting a record deal, which, changed our life, because once we signed in December of 86, we were filming our second video, Things to Do for Money, in Drumheller, which is south of where you are, but close in Alberta.
Yep.
A place called East Cooley, and the sign as you go into the little, now that's not even a hamlet, I don't think. It's just like a few
No.
people. It's at East Cooley, no exit. So that, and there we are making our video. And we were there for 2 days. And during that video, we got word that later that month, in August of 87, we were going to open for Duran Duran and David Bowie at the
Oh
CNE
my
in
goodness.
Toronto, 2 shows opening for David Bowie, which would have never happened had we not signed our record deal. So, our lives really did change overnight once we signed that deal. Big Blue Sky went gold in May of 87. And you
Mhm.
just had the help of a record company in terms of, especially with video and those, well, and radio too. Actually, radio first, then video, because Much Music was reasonably young in 87. But, they could get your video on Much Music.
You're giving me these great segues into what my next question would be. It's perfect.
Okay.
It
Yeah,
was
there you go.
actually, speaking of budgets and how you did the She Ain't Pretty music video, because it was ahead
Right.
of its time graphically. How did you establish that solid relationship you had with Much Music? And what really went into making that video? Because for you guys, it was a performance video,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
graphically, everybody was talking about it.
And that's before animation. Well, or at least
Yeah.
the animation we know, it was called claymation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that video was expensive.
Exactly.
Roughly about $150,000. And in well, that was 1990 in February we shot that. So that's
Mhm.
early 1990. That's a lot of money in those days.
Yeah.
But now you say, how did we get the relationship with Much Music? Again,
Mhm.
through Virgin, through their staff, and it's a building process. It's like anything really. Any job you do, you start usually at the bottom and you work your way up. It's kind of the same thing. The first video we did with Virgin was Teenland, and um, I guess it just worked. I mean, our videos are pretty normal. They're not like, risque in any
Okay.
way.
No, normal, except that one.
Well, except the one, yeah, that's true. That Shane Pretty was a bit different. Although, if you really look at it, besides the couple of clay animation effects, it's a reasonably normal video. I mean, we tried to
Sure.
use, again, if we were going to use a woman as a model in the video, we didn't want to use the obvious looking blonde haired, which was a common thing to use, in videos. So we tried to, same with Girl with the Problem, we tried to use women that looked like normal people, like who most of our fans are. They're normal looking people, they're not.
Yes.
And so we tried to be true that way. Maybe somehow that came through in our videos. I hope it did, because we tried to just be ourselves,
The
Um,
girl in Twister is quite gorgeous too.
yeah, well, that was the wig that she had on. But I mean, that was an interesting video because it was very high intensity. We had
Mm.
fans blowing all the stuff around on the set. And I mean, videos, it's hurry up and wait. I mean, that's really, yeah, they take so long. I mean, it's usually, and it's always for lighting. I mean, it's never really about the audio because you're just playing to the track, usually, unless you're doing a live shoot.
Right.
That's a different thing. But usually it's always lighting, and setting up different scenes. And you need to be organized. And we had a director, Ron Birdie, who did the first, I believe, 9 videos with Virgin. And I guess the videos, we spent a lot of money on them. And so when we presented them to Much Music, they just fit. They looked good. They sounded good. Why wouldn't they play them? And we were,
Yeah.
plus two, the other part is the band has to be committed to touring and to playing live. I mean, or at least it helps a lot. I mean, there were some artists that were more like studio groups that didn't play a lot live, but somehow they made it too. But I don't know how. But in our life, in our time in the 80s and 90s, we played all the time. That's partly why we broke up in 93. We'd spent from 86 till 93, so 7 hard years of being gone almost all the time.
And constantly together.
Yeah, and that's it too. It's very much like being married. It's kind of a weird thing to say, but I can't think of another word. But married to 3 other or 4 other people.
It's
You
true.
you're. In fact, it's more than that, because usually, not often does a husband and wife usually work together as well as being married. So that was it. I mean, we spent all of our time together. You're traveling, if someone's upset with somebody else, the friction is there. And when things go good, it's like anything, right? It's fun. We had lots of great
And
times on the tour bus late at night, rocking it up in the back of the bus,
yeah.
listening to music. And, but for the most part, we've had good experiences at the Pikes. There was never really any major disaster.
Mhm.
So thankfully for that, and that's why I think we're together now. Is that 7 years apart, where we actually split up all of our equipment and assets that we had, and we actually, mind you, we didn't close our company though. We have Northern Pikes, and we incorporated in 1986 when we signed our
Ooh.
record deal. We still have that today. So, but other than that, we actually thought maybe we'd never get together again. And then in 1999, very late 99, right before Y2K happened, where
Mhm.
our first gig back after 7 years, New Year's Eve of 1999, and the gig got canceled.
No.
Yeah, and we were one of the many. Yeah.
Wow. What, they were just afraid that things would like not work out?
Yeah. Well, if you
Technically?
remember, or do you remember much about that? The Y2K scare, they
Oh
thought
yeah.
that computers would stop working.
I literally have this sticker on my computer case that says, remember to shut down your computer before midnight
Right.
in 99. It's a Best
Yeah.
Buy like joke sticker. It's
Yeah.
really cute.
Okay.
Yeah. So I
Well,
remember it. Yeah.
yeah, so so do I. Exactly. But so anyway, I mean, yeah, our gig was canceled, but what Virgin approached us in, I think, the summer, fall of 99, and asked if they would put together a hits record, would the band consider doing a tour to promote it? We said, and by luck, the 4 of us, our schedules for the year 2000 were kind of open. And we thought, yeah, we'll do that. We'll go across the country and promote the album. So that, and then we said to each other, okay, let's take it slow, but if we have fun and it seems like it's working, the idea of doing a new album was on the horizon. So, that's how we started out. We just had no big expectation. We just put together a set of songs that people knew. Played for the most part, they were clubs, bars on that tour, maybe the odd theater. And we said, yeah, let's do another album. So in 2001, we did Truest Inspiration, which was our first studio album since 1992, 9 years, really.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now,
And the band's still together, which is amazing.
I know you've got Kevin Kane of the Grapes of Wrath in the group now.
Yeah. Well,
How
so
did that come to be?
okay. So we started back together in 2000.
Mhm.
We did our Truest Inspiration album in 2001. Then we did our next independent album, It's a Good Life, in 2003.
Mm.
Then in 2005, Merle Brick, one of the original four, just decided that, well, see, part of the situation with Merle was he had a full-time job, which Jay, Brian, and I didn't. We were musicians, And so it became harder for Merle to get time off work. He worked for the city, he still does. He works for the city of Saskatoon. In the winter, he drives a Zamboni and takes care of a rink. And in the summer, he works at a golf course, cuts the grass. He's a greenskeeper.
That's
So,
living the life, actually, the prairie life, right
well,
there.
you know what? And Merle's a pretty simple guy. Like he doesn't have a phone. He doesn't have an iPhone. He keeps calling them our controllers, like in Star Trek. Like, beam me up, Scotty. So Merle's from a small town called Humboldt, Saskatchewan, which a lot of
Yes.
my family was born there, my older brothers and sister. I'm from a farming life. My uncles and aunts and my dad and mom farmed near Middle Lake, which is near Humboldt. And so so it became harder for Merle to get time off to play gigs. So it became kind of obvious that, his love of music wasn't the same as Jay, Brian, and mine. And I guess we stopped playing with him in 2005. For a while, we were playing, well, when Snow and June came out in 1990, we had a lot of keyboards on the album. So in the spring of 1990, to do the Snow and June tour, we hired a keyboard player, Ross Nikiforik, who was from North Battleford, Saskatchewan. Great keyboard player. I call him the fastest keyboard player. Not that he's super fast, but just kind of just a weird inside joke between him and me. I call him the Rocket. And so he played with us, the Rocket, yeah, fastest keyboard player. So he started playing with us in 1990. So when Merle left in 2005, Ross was still playing with us at that point, and we went as a 4-piece from a 5-piece. We went down to 4 and kept Ross in. And then Ross, again, by about 2010, he, was fine. He had his own Cosmic Pad recording studio, which he still runs today. And so became harder for him to get time off as well, to play gigs. So we actually then went 3-piece for a while, just Jay, Brian, and I.
Oh, okay.
And, it might sound trite to go from 4 to 3, but it really is a big difference. It's a visual difference. It's a sound difference. It's a vocal difference. And we realized pretty soon that the Pikes works best as a 4-piece band. It just does.
Did you literally just play the 3 instruments, or did you use tracks?
Well, we never recorded as a 3-piece, but no, live we didn't use tracks at all. We just played 3 of us, yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's from about 2011, 12, right till 2016. And then we talked with, Virgin got bought out by, I think, first Mercury and then Universal Music. So by 2016, that was coming up to the 30th anniversary of Big Blue Sky in 2017. So we thought, okay, kind of like the Hits tour, we thought we're going to go right across Canada and do a 30th anniversary of Big Blue Sky and play that whole album as well as other hits from the other albums. And Brian, at this point, had gotten to know Kevin. They kind of, excuse me 1 second, Jack, your mom on the phone. Sorry about that. We can edit
That's
that
okay.
out.
No worries.
Yeah, my wife's mom is calling. So, um, yeah. So by 2016, we had decided to, for 2017, put together a Big Blue Sky 30th anniversary tour and go right across Canada. And Brian, by this point, had gotten friends. He got to be friends with Kevin Kane from the Grapes of Wrath, and they realized. Well, they met in a music store, and they looked at each other because I think we had done a couple of shows, like festival shows in the 80s, 90s with the Grapes, like multiple bands, and we're on and they're on, and you kind of say hi, how you doing,
Yeah.
and that's about it. So they saw each other in the music store, and are you from the Grapes of Wrath? Yeah, you from. So they started doing a duo called Kane and Potvin, which they still do today. They do Pikes and Grape songs acoustically, which is kind of a really neat thing. So the band asked Kevin if he would just come on this Big Blue Sky tour with us across Canada. And the nice thing about Kevin is he's a songwriter, he's a singer, he's a great guitar player. So he was the perfect match for us, really.
Yeah.
He's from the Grapes are from Kelowna, small town, BC. We're from Saskatoon, small town, Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
And so our upbringing was similar. I'm sure he had the same thing. Big concerts didn't go to Kelowna in those days. They went from Vancouver to Calgary and Edmonton. So the isolation factor was similar with Kevin and the Grapes. So, and Kevin said, yeah. So we went across Canada, again, the same sort of thing. We sort of said, well, if it works out, would he be interested in joining the band? And so he did after that tour. And now the Grapes of Wrath are still together. They just really don't play even as much as we do, and we don't play that much. But so it kind of works out, I keep track of everyone's days off schedule and talk with the agent and deal with the agent and all that stuff. So when we get gigs now, we have to make sure that everyone's available. And
Yeah.
so, yeah,
It's
so it's
quite the
great with Kevin.
balance.
It's quite the balance.
Yes.
It is a good balancing act. Yeah, that is
Yes.
true.
Now, how many times you've traveled this country? Like, you've got to have maybe like a grueling story or a grueling memory of something that happened on the road, because it's hard to travel in a bus all the way
Mhm.
across the country several times.
Yeah, well, it's harder when you're driving in a van
Yeah.
because somebody's actually driving. The nice thing about a tour bus is there's a driver. And well, one thing that comes to mind is it was 1991 and we played on the Juno Awards. We played Shane Pretty. And a couple of nights before that, we were supposed to play in Kelowna, and it was so March, there's still snow on the ground. And I actually have a video posted on YouTube where our bus got stuck in Hope, BC, trying to get to Kelowna to play the gig. Literally, and it wasn't even on the steep incline so much. It was just solid ice and just no traction. And so, the filming I did spliced up into, get all the crew out and 6, 8, 7 guys trying to push the bus, which doesn't work. And then we find sand somewhere and put it under the back tires. And finally the bus gets out, but we missed the gig because well, actually the weather was worse going to Kelowna. So we just canceled the gig, went back to Vancouver and played the Junos. Then the next day drove from Vancouver to Florida, deadheaded it,
Wow.
which took, I think, 5 days. And, and you have a big chalkboard on the bus and you're marking off the cities as you go,
Yeah.
and you go. And so, I mean, that might sound glorious, a week
It's
in a
grueling.
bus.
That's the other word
Yeah,
I use to describe it.
yeah, and there's 12 bunks and everyone has their little bunk and you got a curtain and there's not much room in there. Like, I'm a
Yeah.
small guy, like I mentioned earlier, and I didn't seem to mind it too bad. But like, if you put your knees up to sleep and with your knees up, I mean, you're touching the bunk above you.
Yeah.
So but it was pretty cool though. They have light in there and it's like and that's the other thing is when you're touring, like we mentioned earlier, you're always with the same people doing the same thing. That's your only space and time
Hmm.
of to be by yourself and it is in your bunk.
That's true. Because you
You
even have
know?
to see each other when you're in a common area, when you
Yeah.
might want your own time to decompress, right?
Yeah. So, you know, um, Fortunately for us, we never had too many crazy times. I remember another gig. Um, Brian was living in Toronto. This would have been in early 2000s. So Merle J and I were on a plane at the Toronto airport to go to Ottawa. And Brian had already driven there, so he was there. And you know when you're on a plane, you hear that when they're trying to close and lock the door, the cargo door.
Yeah.
Well, that kept going. And the pilot came on saying, we're having an issue with the door. We're trying to get. Anyway, long story short, we were sitting on the tarmac and missed our gig in Ottawa. So Brian
No.
actually went on and did a couple of songs acoustically or by himself. I think some were on electric, and
Wow.
so we missed the gig. And then Jay, Merle, and I arrived after the gig's done. It was a day gig too, outdoor. And
Mm.
so, you know, those kind of shows just somehow stick in your memory bank, things that the other thing too with the Pikes always had three singers, three songwriters. The other three guys, I'm the drummer in the band and don't
Hmm.
sing. But so we could open up for almost any artist. It wouldn't matter. We did a tour opening for Peter Frampton, tour opening for Robert Palmer, and then a tour opening for Dread Zeppelin, which was a guy dressed up like Elvis, looked kind of like Elvis, the late Elvis, late 70s Elvis,
Yes.
singing um, Led Zeppelin songs. It was the weirdest combination of, and then and imagine the people in the audience, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
um, and so
I totally
we,
forgot about that guy.
yeah, Dread Zeppelin. They were quite a neat band actually, and we did
Yeah.
many shows down in the southern U.S. opening for them, and so we could, we would tailor our sets differently. If it needed to be aggressive and a little more punky, we could do that, and if you needed to be a little more Robert Palmer, people eating dinner while you're playing, we could go lighter, and so. And it would always work. Like people
Mm.
would always generally enjoy the Pikes. It was again, I think our music is pretty normalized. It's not there's no swearing. We're not overly aggressive in any way. And so we kind of always could fit in
Hmm.
with whoever we opened for. Bruce Hornsby, we did a tour in Canada. Tom Cochrane and Red Rider, we did a tour opening for Tom. So,
It's
an
straight
opening,
ahead Canadian rock, man. It's
yeah,
just,
it
it's
was.
got a
And
huge appeal to it.
yeah, it's something about just honest music too. We never really, for a little bit, we used a sequencer playing a keyboard part for a song called "The Way You Are" from what album was that on? That was on Neptune in '92. Um,
Mm.
but outside of that, and we always in the studio would not always because I had an argument with the guys once. I didn't want to use a click in a song on Truest Inspiration called "Swirl," which is an amazing song. It's a really cool
Mm.
song of Jay's. And because my argument was that sometimes songs need to move around, they don't need to be. And sometimes they positively have to have a click because they need to
Right.
be in time. It just makes sense and it works the best. So, um, yeah, so we've tried to always use the adage that there's no rules, anything's possible, anything can be done. And it opens up a freedom to know that you could try something that you've never tried and maybe it'll work. And that's fun. I think if bands have too many restrictions, you know, it's not always a good thing because it does sort of take away that spontaneity of an idea or a thought or a
Right.
process, of recording. Sometimes we would do just drums to a click. In fact, the whole Big Blue Sky album was almost that way.
Yeah.
You get to be, or you can get to be so um, perfection is like the objective. So
Mm.
if four guys are in the studio playing and I'm listening to a click, or all of us are listening to a click, if anyone's off in tempo or it's hard to play that way because you're hearing things and not in. It's like it's hard. So eventually we take one guy out. I was left to play drums to a click, and I knew the song so well that, and then you layer the bass, then you do rhythm guitar, and you just layered songs that way.
Right.
And I don't recommend that method. not much fun. It's much more enjoyable when a group of people are playing together and you get a bunch of tracks at once, you know. You get the core track in one take. Nothing like that. There's nothing. Shane Pretty was like that. And when Brian wrote that song in '89 in the summer, he said, you know, we would always demo songs usually 6 months prior to making an album. We'd do demos twice a year, in the winter and in the summer, in Saskatoon,
Mm.
out at Pike Lake, near Pike Lake, a studio called Studio West, which was the first 24-track, 2-inch studio recording studio around Saskatoon. It started in the early '80s, even before we started recording. And so we would always do demos, and Brian said, I've written this stupid song. I don't even want to play it for you guys. And of course we said, well, you have to play it. I mean, how can you not? And he played it for us on the guitar, and we said, Brian, it's a great song. Sure, it's whatever you want to say. It's quirky. It is what it is. And so we all sat down then and played through it. And the version that Brian wrote and that we played the first time in the basement in Saskatoon is kind of how it ended up. We added a piano player, Stan Celeste, who played with the band, with Robbie Robertson in the band back in the band years.
Mhm.
And he was great. I remember we recorded it in Bearsville Studio in Woodstock, New York, or near Woodstock. And so I picked him up at the train in Kingston, New York, not Kingston, Ontario, Kingston, New York. And it was kind of late. And by the time we got to the studio, it was like a half an hour drive, and I think it was like 11:30 at night. And so we said, Stan, okay, well, you know, we'll show you your room where you're going to sleep, and we'll get started in the morning. He says, hey, it's a full moon, boys, let's rock. And so, there was a piano already set up. I mean, most studios have pianos there.
Mm.
And he was in Studio B, and we were in Studio A. And so, long headphone feed. And so we recorded She Ain't Pretty about 3 a.m. in the morning, you know, and
Mhm.
did several takes of it. And there was a thought of how to end it, like the da na na at the end. Wasn't really how we did it in the early versions of the song. And so that was a discussion in the studio. And again, that's the spontaneity of some things. How do you end a song? Do you want to fade it out, or do you want to have a proper ending? You
Mm.
know? And so that was just decided at the time, let's just try that. So you go back and you try and to get it tight. And again, we got the bed track, all of us, and we overdubbed Brian's vocal. Usually you would do a scratch lead vocal just so people would know, because the songs are new to you. You don't really know
Yeah.
them that well. You know, when songs are written and you record them within a few weeks. So you'd always do a ghost vocal. And so usually the master lead vocal and harmonies would be done after as overdubs, and
Mhm.
guitar solos and things like that. Sometimes you'd get them live, but not always, you know.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I mean, the other thing too is when we signed our record deal, the first thing we bought was a video camera. In Well, technically it wasn't the first thing we bought, because we signed in '86 December and we bought it in May of '87. But anyway, we had just finished recording the Big Blue Sky album, and so we bought a video camera, and I've kind of been the keeper of it all these years, and we've
Oh.
gone through different cameras. So we literally have hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours of footage of just stupid things, like on a bus from Vancouver to Florida, and in recording studios, and all sorts of things. So that's been a fun thing too, is just capturing moments of in time, you know.
Have you talked about plans for the footage?
Oh yeah, I mean, some of it is on our YouTube channel. There's rare things, you
Yeah.
know. But you know, a lot of it. Someday we do want to do like a Pike documentary, you know, and that's where it'll shine, because that's the first thing you look for when you do documentaries, is footage, right? I mean, what do you have?
Yeah.
How do you tell your story? And so there's no better way than original footage. So it's kind of been in my vault all these years, you know, and I've shared certain pieces of it, but there's a lot of stuff that hasn't been shared that's pretty neat. And someday we'll see the light of day, you know. Um, but I would recommend that to any young artist, is to, first of all, log your gigs, because, you know, I just think that's a cool thing to do. And on our site, I've been doing that. You know, if you go to our gigs section, you'll see all the gigs that I know of that we played. And I know I'm missing quite a few, but still there's lots. There's literally, just keep scrolling, there's gigs there. So
Do you ever have fans tell you, "Oh, remember
yeah,
this one?"
yeah.
Yeah.
And I encourage fans to reach out if they, you know, we're at a concert and they don't see it in our gigs, send it to me and I'll add it. And I just did one last week for Cold Lake, Alberta. We actually played there twice before, and I only had
Mm.
one time listed. So a friend of mine sent, yeah, he played there. I think it was November 30th of 2004.
Mm.
So there you go. I added it and just, yeah. But that's one thing I'd recommend, just because I'm sort of not really a diary freak so much, but just facts of things. It's nice to know, you know, who you've opened for, who you played with, and where you
Hmm.
played. It's just kind of neat, you know. And also take pictures and video as much as you can of just your life, because it's
Yeah.
every one of us as human beings has an interesting life. And so it can never be wrong to have footage. It's just, it is what it is. It's reality, you know.
This is so true. And especially when you're on the road, you don't always get the chance to explore the places you're at. There's not a lot of time to do that. So if you can make that time and document it, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. And that's something most people don't understand. They think, wow, you're touring around the world, you've seen everything. It's like, no, not necessarily. You've been in a
Sitting inside
hotel
this
room
bus.
and at the gig, and it's like, yeah. And if you have a minute, you're just relaxing, resting,
Yeah.
you know. Sometimes people find that hard to understand. It's like, let's go for coffee, let's meet for dinner. You know, it's like, no, you just doesn't work out in the schedule, you know.
I
Like,
got sound check. I got meet and greet.
yeah,
I got interviews. I got
yeah. It's like I know it's hard, and it's work. It's not like traveling itself. When you're on family vacation is one thing, and even that can be hectic at times. But you
Mhm.
know, when you're traveling as a musician, it's hard,
Yeah.
especially when you're not feeling good. I mean, that's, you know, because usually, you know, if you're on a family vacation, you're not feeling good, you just don't do something. But if you have a gig to play, you need to really be sick to cancel the gig. And
True.
and it's hard to play when you're sick, especially for people that sing. Like, it's
Mm.
multiplied by 10, you know. Um, Easier for a drummer. Although a couple of gigs ago this summer, I've been fighting a cough, and actually it almost feels like COVID, because I had COVID a couple times in the COVID years, 2021, 22. But
Yeah.
anyway, and so I'm playing on stage and I start a coughing thing where and it's so weird, because it drumming is such a rhythmic thing, you know, and I found it really hard to play. It's like, when you're,
It's throwing you off,
yeah, it's
right?
throwing you
Like,
off, these uncontrollable coughing surges that you have. And our last gig, so Canada Day, we played in Cold Lake, Alberta, and Brian just got over pneumonia.
oh
And
wow.
and he probably shouldn't have played the gig, although he felt good enough to fly. He lives out in Nova Scotia, but he didn't sing at all. And again, that's the other nice thing about having three singers. If one guy can't sing, two other guys can pull it up and pick up the slack.
That is a blessing.
Yeah, so he tried the first verse of Shane Pretty. That's all he tried to do, and he couldn't. And so
Mm.
Jay's played that song on a solo a lot on his own, so he knew it. And Jay's great at that. Jay's the kind of musician that can, if he hears a song, he can learn it and play it and sing it in no time, you know. So great to have a guy like that in your band that can just. I mean, Jay sang "Hopes Go Stray." Brian wrote that song. Jay co-wrote it with him, but it's mostly Brian's song.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Hello, listeners. It has been such an experience doing this show for the last 5+ years, but it gets expensive. If you didn't know, there's a lot of costs that go into making a podcast. That's why we have our Patreon page, patreon.com/dope nostalgia. That's where you can go and subscribe, get all the extra details, bonus videos, and early podcast release for as little as $1 a month. Please subscribe today and help support one of your favorite podcasts.
Hey, this is Glenn Phillips, and you are watching or listening to the Dope Nostalgia podcast.
Welcome to Top Track. I'm Miracle Matt Tessier.
And I'm the paranoid android Andrew Mull.
Top Track is a weekly show that deliberates and celebrates the greatest albums in rock history.
But this is no normal album review show. We take the entire track list to determine the top track of the albums we review.
Listeners like Top Track because there's insightful commentary between two esteemed music scholars. This is quintessential Zappa, changing from Aeolian to Lydian modes at the 220 mark.
Just below the Depeche Mode.
Right.
Do you remember when you first saw your name in the Yellow Pages, how awesome it was? Nobody?
A lot of other stuff going on.
Is there a fifth Canadian artist?
I don't know.
Alanis Morissette, is she Canadian?
Oh, she is Canadian.
So check out Top Track on all your podcast platforms. Every single last one of them.
Hello there. I am Jonathan Simkin. I'm the president of 604 Records. I'm here to welcome you to my new podcast, I Hate Simkin. It's not really about hatred of Simkin, though. That's what my life's about, but that's not what the podcast is about. I think if you watch it, you're going to learn some pretty interesting things about what goes on behind the scenes in the music business, how it works, and by that I mean how it really works, how it works when you're behind the scenes. And not just things like how do you make a hit, but even all the petty kind of stuff. Who was fighting with who? Why were they fighting? Something about being with my wife and running into him. I just saw red, and we actually got into a fist fight. So you're going to hear all sorts of weirdo gossip spoken by a bunch of old in the music business like me. I'm going to have guests like Mike Kruger from Nickelback, Michael McCarty, Jody Ferniehow, and if you like what you hear, and I know you're going to, you should hit the subscribe button. It's going to be all sorts of crazy week after week.
Yo quiero Taco Bell. She's a girl with a problem. She's a girl with a problem. There ain't no cure. Well, she works so hard, and at the end of the day, needs a little something extra to take it all away. They say love can conquer all, and man, I wish it were true. She's a girl with a problem, and there's nothing I can do, nothing I can do. You can bang your head against a brick wall. You can like her Humpty Dumpty, but you can't prevent a fall. Well, a bang, 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 there's nobody home. She's a girl with a problem, and she wants to be alone. You can lie to me. You can lie to yourself for a while, till those lies turn into something else. I will talk to you. You will listen to me for a while, then you'll turn your back and away you go.
With the Pikes songs, that's the interesting thing too about songwriting. Usually the other three would come to the band with a song, usually on an acoustic guitar, sometimes electric, but mostly acoustic. And then sometimes with Merle found it harder to finish a song. So Jay quite often, like Kiss Me You Fool, Jay wrote the bridge of that song. It's Merle's verse and Merle's choruses, but and a lot of songs like Teen Land Jay wrote, but Merle sang. In the beginning of the Pikes, Merle was just a lead singer. So we were technically a three-piece band, guitar, bass, drums, and a lead singer. But Merle could always play guitar, but just, I don't know, for some reason, in the beginning of the Pikes, he just sang. And so as he started to play guitar more, he was just writing more. But so in the beginning, as with Merle just being the lead singer, Jay gave Merle songs to sing, like Teenland. What other songs did Jay write that Merle sang? But
Like, would they write a song and then kind of figure out who was going to sing it, or did they write a song for that specific person to sing?
Well, no, for the most part, I mean, well, I guess Brian, like I mentioned, Brian wrote "Hopes Go Astray," and Brian wasn't singing yet on "Secrets of the Alibi," our second album. It wasn't until our third Virgin album, "Snow in June," that Brian started. He just mustered up enough confidence that, because in the early days, it was Merle was the lead singer and Jay sang a fair amount as well and harmonized. So it was really just the two voices on the first two albums. Then "Snow in June" and afterwards became three. So, but Brian, like I mentioned, wrote "Hopes Go Astray," and then Jay sang it, and Brian sang the middle eight of that song. That was his first lead singing, was the middle eight that he wrote of "Hopes Go Astray," was the first time Brian sang. And then when he wrote "Shame Pretty," it just became obvious that he should be singing his songs, you know. But
That was his
because
style.
yeah, and that's just it. Everyone did have their own style. So there were a couple of songs that Jay wrote that Merle sang, but Jay wrote. So, but after by Neptune, pretty much everyone was singing the songs that they wrote. And after that, yeah.
Well, I have some fun, frivolous questions for you as well.
Okay.
Some of them relate to touring, because I was still on that tour bus thinking about, if you're driving across Canada, are you going to Tim Hortons or A&W? Or are you sick of both?
Some were Mr. Sub.
And
And
Mr.
it's funny.
Sub.
There's a good story, and this was in our van even before the tour bus days in Thunder Bay, Ontario. It's again one of those weird things you think about. Four of us go in, we order our subs, and they heat them up, and we get back in the van. And Jay's sub is so hot, it's like steaming hot. It's like you can't hold on to it. It's almost like it almost became a liquid sandwich. It was that hot.
And that's from a microwave?
Yes, that's from a Mr. Sub overheating in the microwave. Yeah. But sorry, your question about the bus was again?
Basically, where would you rather stop, Tim Hortons or A&W?
Oh, right. Okay.
And are you tired of those places?
Well, in the early days, there weren't a lot of Tim Hortons around. Mind you, Tim's was always a good favorite. There's no question.
The chili.
Well, yes.
I love the chili.
Yes, there were years when I was into Tim Hortons chili too. That's true. A&W, I guess, yeah. I mean, I remember, funny thing about A&W, first time before the Pikes, three of us, Jay, Merle, and I, were in a band called the Idols in Saskatoon, and we recorded two songs. One was Merle's and one was Jay's in exactly to this month, 46 years ago, in July of 1980, in Rosetown, Saskatchewan. This guy, Tom Wilson, had an 8-track studio in his garage, converted his garage. And again, when you asked earlier about recording studios, that was cool. We were young, 19 years old, making our first recording. And so CKOM, the station, the AM station in Saskatoon, had a contest on, it was Battle of the Bands, or Battle of the... Is that what they called it? Anyway, it was a song against a song, and you voted. And so we submitted the song Ray Jean that Jay wrote. Or sorry, that was Merle's song. And it was on a 45, so we took it down to the station. They had it, and so they played it a few times, and so became known around town that, and we promoted it at our gigs too, that we played, that we had a 45 out. It was a big deal in 1980 for a band to have a vinyl 45. And so I remember sitting at A&W on 8th Street in Saskatoon, where they actually, the hostess would come out and serve you, and you had the tray on your window. And nothing beats an A&W root beer in an A&W mug, frosted mug. Nothing. And so I was with our sound man, light man. He was our road crew was one guy, Keith Fitzgerald, Fitz. Him and I are sitting in A&W waiting for Ray Jean to come on the radio. That's the first time I ever heard our band on the radio, was at the A&W in Saskatoon in July of 1980.
Oh my goodness, that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, and you can't beat A&W onion rings, can you?
You know what? They're the best. honestly. They're really
Yeah.
salty.
Yeah.
Um,
And just the batter, there's something about it, you know.
and I'll get gravy for them too. Like I'll eat them with gravy. They're good.
Interesting. I've never tried that, but I bet it would work. Yeah.
It's quite good.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go.
Now, favorite 90s magazines. What were you reading?
Well, even before the 90s, it would be late 70s, 80s, Circus and Cream magazines, where, again, like I mentioned in Saskatoon, all the big artists played in arenas because we didn't have a big enough arena, would go from Calgary, Edmonton to Winnipeg. So, and I was a huge Kiss fan. And, you know, Kiss had great visual pictures. They just did. I mean, the first band to wear makeup and the costumes they had and the gear. And Peter Criss was one of my first drum heroes for sure. You know, would always look at Peter's drums. How do you have them set up? How do you mic them underneath the toms with Sennheiser 421s, you know, and black microphones? And I just thought that was so cool. And all the things you think of as like a young musician nerd kid, you know. It's all about gear, you know.
Right.
And that's an interesting thing, I must say. The difference with the Northern Pikes was, because I played in bands starting in grade 8, so that would have been 1975. And by grade 9 and grade 10, I mean, the first gig I played was at my grade 8 graduation. So, I mean, it's not traveling, but I was in a band called Spectrum. There were first of all a 3-piece, then we became a 4-piece. And so in those years in Saskatchewan and probably every province across Canada, there were lots of gigs to play if you, like in small towns in the province you lived in. So if you played songs that were on the radio, BTO, April Wine, eventually Prism, Trooper, whoever was on the radio, you covered those songs and you could get work playing in small towns for dances. And sometimes we'd play like 4 or 5 times a month, Friday, Saturday, maybe a Friday, maybe Saturday, Friday, Saturday. And we'd make maybe, I think, $40, $50 was a big payday, maybe $60 each, you know. And so in the first gigs we did, our parents would take turns coming as chaperones in the van because we weren't even old enough to rent or to drive, well, to rent, first of all, or drive a rental vehicle. And we'd pull a small U-Haul with our gear. And then what I'm trying to say is in those early years, it was all about the gear because we weren't writing our own songs. We didn't really think, well, I guess we thought about recording, but it just wasn't a reality. The Studio West was the only place in town. It was really expensive. So it really wasn't an option. So we would buy bass bins and we'd buy like, you know, 3-way system, bass, mid, and horns. And in one band, we painted them all white. And, you know, we had a mirror ball. We had the cop lights, the cherries. We had dry ice. We brought a dry ice machine, a big 50-gallon barrel drum with like white, you know, 4-inch hoses so you'd fill it with water and you'd drop dry ice in it and the fog would come on the stage.
It's perfect.
I mean, it was, you know, it was like everything Kiss was doing. We tried to emulate it. We had flash pads. We had, you know, going off and stuff. But then by the time I joined the Pikes, or when the Pikes started I joined in 86. The band actually, the first 2 independent records, the Pikes didn't have a solid drummer. My daughter was born in January of 1983, and the Pikes started in January of 84. So they wanted me to play because, like I mentioned, 3 of us, Merle, Jay, and I, were in a band called the Idols prior to the Pikes. And when that band broke up in the fall of 83, you know, my daughter was 9 months old at that point. And so I got a job at a warehouse for a medical company, shipping medical supplies to all the clinics and hospitals in Saskatchewan because I had responsibility. So when the Pikes started in 84, January, I wanted really, really badly to join, but I just couldn't quit my job and make no money. It was just, there was no possible way. So they went through drummers, good drummers, but just there's something about chemistry that's just, you can't explain it. It's something either works or it doesn't. And they were finding it hard to find someone that just played simple. It sounds stupid, but it's hard to play simple sometimes, you know. It's any musician, any keyboard player, guitar, saxophone, doesn't matter. sometimes people just overplay. And
It's true. And with writing, the same thing. It's
yeah,
harder to write a
exactly.
simple, catchy song.
I know. Well, that's what Shane Pretty was, right? A very simple, straightforward song. They're the hardest things to do
Yeah.
in some ways. It's easy to write something
it takes real
complicated because,
talent.
yeah, to do something complicated is actually kind of easy in some ways. It just,
Writing a hook
yeah,
is difficult.
is difficult. A catchy hook that people can sing along is very hard. So anyway, what happened as the band through 84 and 85, I would fill in a lot with the Pikes because I knew the songs and they'd be going between drummers. They couldn't find anyone that really fit. And by fluke in 86, I took a week of holidays with my warehouse job at the medical company. And I played with them. And the last show was the Northwind Talent, which was the booking agent in Saskatoon. They did a showcase every year, and they'd have bands. Usually 12 bands would play maybe 20 minutes each, like short sets. So you'd stack them with all your popular songs, and they'd invite a guy and a gal from all the schools in the province. Like usually it was like the senior ring, senior pin kind of thing is what we called it in Saskatchewan of a high school, like the popular. And so they would come and decide which bands they wanted to hire for their dances for the coming year. Great idea. And so by this time, the Pikes had released 2 independent albums, EPs. First one had 6 songs, second one had 8. And sent them out to all radio stations across Canada and the States and to a lot of college. Didn't forget about college because that was the reality of who would play them, right? If you didn't have a record company behind you, getting a big station in Boston was not an option, but the college in Boston would play it. And so they sent out these packages. Jay went to the library. Again, this is all before computers. This is 1984, 85. And he got the addresses of all radio stations and colleges in North America, and just didn't send to all of them, but picked the ones they thought, and they include a self-addressed and stamped postcard. How'd you like the album? And they were starting to get response. It's a great idea, and they started to get response, like from Florida, playing like Walt Teenland was on the first album, and that gave them encouragement, right? Because, I mean, at some point, and they weren't even playing many gigs in 84 and 85. It was just a band playing original music in Saskatoon in 1984. You're not going to get many gigs. They're just not there.
Mm-hmm.
So getting this response back fueled them. It's like, okay, I wasn't involved at that point. They believed in themselves, but hearing other people saying, we like your stuff, and especially from vinyl, like playing vinyl on these radio stations. So, and what happened in 86 was they got the ear of Doug Chappelle, president of Virgin Records. He flew out to Saskatoon when I was filling in with them, playing this Northwind Talent Showcase. And he loved the band. And then Doug flies back to Toronto and finds out that I'm not the real drummer. I went back to work and the band doesn't have a drummer. It's basically what it was. And he was really bummed out. And so Merle would always be the guy to call me Niggs. And my nickname is Niggs. And he'd say, Niggs, do you want to join? Like, now we have the president of Virgin Records wants to sign the band. And so and that was the final straw for me for quitting my job. But what the band agreed to do at this point, I was going through a divorce with my wife, but my daughter was, so by 86, she was 2.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
So the band agreed to pay my child support until I could afford to do it on my own. That was the only way that I could quit my job and join the band.
Wow.
And yeah. So, I mean, that's amazing, really, when you think about it. I mean, the band had hardly no money, but the little bit that we did make, managed to pay my child support for 1.5 years until I could afford to do it myself.
That's really sticking together. That's when you know you have a good thing and you want it to work.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really an amazing thing for them to do. And then Doug was super excited. I was in the band, and then we drove out to Toronto in the fall of 86, right when I joined. And Mind you, it took a while. Like then lawyers are involved and you're working on the contract, and there's days when you think, oh no, it's fallen through. But there were other companies interested too in us. So it wasn't like, but we wanted to be with Virgin. We wanted to be with Doug because we met him. He saw us. He's a musician.
Yeah.
Lots of times record presidents, they don't know much about music sometimes.
Some of them can't even play an instrument, but they're good at something that puts them in that
exactly.
position.
Yeah, but they're not as sympathetic to chemistry and to artistry and to songwriting and all that. They just want to hit,
I think
They
a lot
don't
of it
care
is
how they
like
get it.
business schools and such. I think that's where a lot of them come from.
Yeah, so we knew we wanted to be with Doug, but anyway, the deal took a couple of months of negotiating back and forth because it was a big deal. It was a 6-album deal. It was at the time the biggest deal any Saskatchewan band had ever signed. That's for sure.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you to Jay, Merle, and Brian for agreeing to pay my child support for my daughter so I could join the band. But it's a great story. I love telling the story because it's the humanistic side of it all,
Truly. What's your favorite thing about Saskatchewan? What would you recommend to people?
Well, that's an interesting question. I've never actually been directly asked that before.
Yeah.
Well, I was born there.
Saskatchewan deserves more credit because people don't know much about it.
I know, because even today still, I mean, Saskatoon and Regina have come a long way over the years in terms of expansion and just different ethnicities coming in. It's much more people from all over the world living there now.
People are very passionate there for the things they believe in.
Yeah, and you need to be a strong person. I always wonder how, like, my grandparents came from Germany and Bavaria in like 1907. And they came to Minnesota first. And that seems to be, as you do family genealogy and stuff. Actually, Minnesota in the early 1900s was a place where a lot of immigrants would go and then they'd branch out from there. And I always think, wow, how did people survive? And why would you want to come to Saskatchewan in the early 1900s? Like with the weather, just the weather alone. How did you survive in the winter? Like 40 below. How? It's amazing.
What made you want to settle here? Exactly.
Yeah, that's my question. Yeah. Why wouldn't you just keep going out to the West Coast where it's warmer?
Yeah.
But I mean, part of the charm of Saskatchewan is the isolation. I mean, I think that just, whether people realize it or not, it does bring some sort of originality because even though people come from all over as immigrants to Canada in general or North America, something about Saskatchewan is still pretty isolated. And I think part of it is because of the weather. Even though the weather's getting warmer with global warming, it's still cold. And really, I say to people, have you ever heard the term driving on square tires on your vehicle? And some say, no, what is that? And so when your vehicle sits in 40 below, like the tire is flatter on the bottom, you start to drive and that's driving on square tires, it's that. And I don't know.
It gets so cold and then the air in the tires compresses because of it's so cold.
Yeah. So it stays in that form, flat. So every time it goes around, it's like, and eventually it'll wear itself through and it'll
we got these Edmonton problems too.
Yeah, I know. Edmonton is very similar. There's not a whole lot of difference.
When I went to Saskatoon for not the first time, but where I was an adult and actually noticed to look around, and I was like, this is a lot like Edmonton. It really is.
Yeah. And it's funny, you mentioned earlier about gigs. Edmonton, December 8th, 1980, the night John Lennon was shot, we were playing at the Londonderry.
Really?
Yeah. Which is now it's a casino. We've actually played there since. Is it Century?
It's a Century Casino now?
Yeah. That's the same room that we played in 1980 when John Lennon was shot. I remember that distinctly. And again, and in those early years, you had band rooms when you played clubs, and usually you'd play 6 nights a week. Sometimes you do 2 weeks straight. So, and we were there for 2 weeks, and in December, and it was 40 below at least the
Yeah.
night John was shot. So we finished our last like tag. You normally do like 340s or 350s in a tag, and how did that go? Yeah, it was after the tag was done. You know, some people left the bar, and they had a big TV in the lobby. So I was out in the lobby, and the news was on that John Lennon was shot.
Mm.
And I remember going back into the bar, and not many people left in there, and an argument starts, and a fight starts. And Keith Fitzgerald, our one roadie at the time, doing lights and sound, I remember him being like, he had his arms over the mixer. I guess it wasn't really, I guess it was console, but it was, I forget what kind it was, 16 channel mixer, and his light board. And so the people fighting wouldn't wreck his stuff.
Just protection.
Yeah. And one guy, a bouncer, takes one of the guys and throws him through a glass window beside the door. Like
Roadhouse.
Almost, yeah. And so there's blood everywhere. And while this is going on, I'm out in the lobby trying to watch the news on a little TV with the sound coming out of the speaker in the TV that John Lennon's been shot in New York. And that was the first, they didn't even know that he had died at that point. It was just the first reportings of it. And so, and getting back to the band room, so at the Londonderry, the band stayed downstairs. You weren't allowed to take the elevator. You had to take the stairs. And there was no TV. There were just mattresses on the floor. And
what the hell?
Yeah, like it was everything that you can imagine being the worst place to stay. It was.
What kind of hospitality is that?
Well, that wasn't hospitality in those years. Like it was.
No.
So we always feared band rooms, you know. But in Hamilton, Ontario, they actually had the TV drawn on the wall. There was no TV in the band house. It was just
That's
like
unreal.
somebody drew a TV on the wall for a joke, you know.
As a hint, get a TV.
But they, I think a lot of times, especially back then, 80s, 90s, bands were considered still by some like freak shows in a way, like touring, like just freak shows. Like they weren't normal people, I think.
They weren't taken seriously as
almost, yeah. Just put them in the room down in the basement, Yeah. So
well, I'm hoping our standards have changed, have upgraded.
Yeah, standards have changed. So thankfully for all the young musicians out there, you might not get those band rooms that we had.
You've given a lot of helpful hints to the young guys today.
Well, I hope so in a way, because life is just about experiences, right? No matter what you do, what you're involved in, you're learning, hopefully, and getting better at it. And if you can share those experiences with the younger people coming up, trying to do the same thing, mind you, I guess the young people would probably have experiences to share with the old timers that that we didn't go through, because things have changed and we're not really seeing it from a young person's point of view either, so
yeah, that's true.
It's always a learning experience. That's the thing about life, is hopefully we never get to a point where we stop learning and trying new things.
You have to keep that mind open.
Oh, look at that, Milo.
He really, really likes being here.
That's cute. It's very cute.
But one of the main messages I've learned from talking to you today is about finding the joy in it. You have to have the joy in making the music, and
that's exactly right, or else you'd never do it, or any job. If you're going to be, I admire doctors and nurses, or firemen, or people. Everyone's running out and you're running in. It's like, how do people do that? Being a musician is pretty tame, comparatively speaking, when you talk about firemen or policemen being shot at,
right,
or all the things they have to deal with. It's like, wow. Or doctors, or
it's a huge decision to make that path for your life. Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think that, like you say, that you have to like it, or there has to be some desire within us to do something. What makes someone run into a building when everyone's running out?
Yeah.
Like, every time I watch anything on 9/11 in New York, it's just like they called him what did they call that guy again? The guy that was just in there praying for the firemen, and he died,
Yeah.
Yeah, just sad to hear things like that.
But yeah, you got to find what drives you
Yeah.
to make these types of career moves and choose the life you lead.
Yeah, it's true. And I think a lot of people, unfortunately, are just not necessarily happy with what they do to make a living. And that would be such an unfortunate situation to be in, because I still think in Canada, especially now with everything that's happened with Trump and down in the States, I mean, it's become really apparently obvious the differences between how people can feel about things. How can people be so one side and there's no common ground anymore? It's like how has that happened? You'd
I don't
think we'd be
remember
coming
politics
closer
being,
together.
I don't remember growing up or even in my younger years thinking that politics would be something I would choose friends over or lose friends over,
Yeah, I know.
That's
Well,
not something that I ever thought would be the case.
I think it's part of like the computers, technology, internet, social media, all that stuff. Like I never used to watch politics.
Mm-mm.
Well, you couldn't. Like you can sit and watch the parliament. I mean, I've tried. It's like watching paint dry. I mean,
It's so
it's
dry.
you know, but it's becoming so sensationalized now with what you can watch on YouTube, and it's again the good and bad of all things, right? If it's
Yeah.
used for good, it's amazingly helpful, but there's so much bad out there, and people that don't take the time to look at both sides and due diligence and like
Mhm.
don't just believe everything that you're hearing. Well, that's a whole nother conversation, but yeah, that's just
True.
part of the life we're living in now.
Yeah,
It's a different planet,
it is.
But grateful to be from Canada. The only other place the
Mhm.
Pikes have played besides the United States is Japan. We went to Japan in 2003. And coming back to Canada, I mean, you realize when you leave the country how great it is when you come back.
Yeah,
Like it's one of those things that you don't know what you have till you don't have it.
it's true. We're blessed to be here and be
Yeah,
from
it's
here.
such a great country, and just with Mark Carney now our prime minister, and nobody's perfect, but man, he's doing a wonderful job. I think
I think so
he's
too.
he's brought Canada onto the global. We're now talked about as the leader of the free world in some ways, because Trump sure isn't, that's for sure.
No, their national nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true, and it's unfortunate because we played a lot and toured a lot down there, and people, for the most part, are similar. We're all similar, not. I mean, there can be differences, yes, but I mean, we still all breathe and we have blood that runs through our veins, and you know,
Yeah, it's
we
true.
have a
And
heart.
if I ever hear any of my friends talk shit about Americans, I'm like, well, they're just like us. They're
Yeah,
literally just like us. When you have a conversation, their thoughts, feelings, and all that, it's the same. We have people here in Alberta who want to leave this country because
yeah,
they want to go live with Trump or whatever.
and
But
they should.
then they should go.
They should,
They
because
want
don't try
I
to
don't want to
separate
leave. I
our
don't want
country.
Alberta to leave Canada at all.
Exactly. I know. It's well, first of all, with all the First Nations land, and I don't it's not even possible. Like in reality,
It's
it
embarrassing to say you're from Alberta at times. I will,
yeah, well,
it
I
can be.
I can sympathize with you, and yeah, I mean the whole what did they call it in Ottawa when all the truckers
Oh, the
parked there?
convoy,
Yeah. I
the
mean
Freedom Convoy.
the Freedom Convoy, yeah. And then with what happened in Alberta at the Coots border, you
Mhm.
know, um yeah, I mean, it's a whole nother conversation, but it is just unfortunate that, I mean, we are in such a, all you have to do is look at Palestine and Israel, like the Gaza Strip. They've basically blown the whole thing up. Like, how is that? How long is that ever going to take, if ever, to get back to any kind of normal? Like, and look at Edmonton. How great is Edmonton? Or Calgary, or anywhere in Alberta. Why would someone want to leave or to separate, as if that's going to be the solution? How's that going to change anything?
No,
really?
it's just going to cause a million more problems that they didn't have
Exactly.
already.
Yeah. And it's going to be more expensive in the long run. There's no way that that's going to be cheaper for anyone.
Should I keep this whole political part in the show, or is this just me and you talking?
Oh, I don't mind. Use your discretion. I mean, it's part of.
I'll feel it
Hey, Jay wrote a song called "One Good Reason" in 1988 on our Secrets of the Alibi album about war. And about. I mean, that song is relevant today. I mean, generally, war has been around. If you, I mean, since the beginning of humans, really. It's unfortunate. And why is it? I don't know. Why people choose to, or not all, but some people choose to hate over loving people. It's just crazy. But no, that's a part of reality. It's a part of songwriting. And, we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it.
That's true.
Yeah.
It stays in.
Stays in. There you go. Make it interesting.
I look forward. I know I won't be able to see you on the 2nd, but if people can come down and see you at Pigeon Lake on August 2nd, it's going to be a killer show. But I know you'll come back to Edmonton area. So when you do,
we will.
I would like to be there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'll make a note for you, for Edmonton.
I'll follow you guys, and then I'll let you know when I see, hey.
Well, sure. And reach out, because I'll get you tickets. It's no problem. And the gigs we're doing now, I mean, most of them are festivals, casinos, or theaters. We and we don't. And again, our schedules are between the four of us. Like I say, I keep track of everyone's days off. So we've had to turn down shows because literally someone has a wedding to go to, or just whatever.
Life stuff.
Someone's going on a vacation to Iceland, and you go. You just. And we've come to the point where we respect everyone's life. And hey, I mean, if this gig doesn't happen because somebody can't do it, then there'll be another gig, and that always works out. So we don't play that much. When we do play, it's a great time. We still love getting on the stage, and it's a great feeling to just. We're so thankful that still the band started 42 and a half years ago. That's amazing to me. That we can still get paid to play our songs for people. It's never wears thin.
Well, you guys have an amazing legacy in this country and with incredible music, and that's why I really wanted to have you on the show today. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. It's been a great
really
time.
Nice conversation.
Good chat. Yeah. Thank you.
Don, I'll let you know when this comes out. It'll probably be in about a month-ish.
Okay.
And then I'll send you an email, and I'll tag you in the social media. I'll tag the band and everything.
Well, actually, a month from yesterday, August 15th, we're playing in our hometown of Saskatoon for Rock the River.
Oh, cool.
So that could be a cool target to hit if it works out.
Very much so. Okay.
And I understand about editing, it takes time.
It does. It's I'm on the 604 podcast network, so it's helped a lot now. We just signed up with it this month, and it's been really awesome getting to be a part of that too. So
good for you. It's like I said, with a band getting signed to a label, you're connected, and that's all it's about, right? It's
604 has done great stuff. So
well, that's it. Good to hear.
Yeah. All right. Well,
thank you very much, Naomi. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Have a good summer.
Don. You too.
Alrighty. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.
You can follow Dope Nostalgia on Instagram at @dope_nostalgia and YouTube at Dope Nostalgia Podcast. Call and leave a message on our voicemail toll free. The number's 1-888-741-9192.
This podcast is licensed by SOCAN because we believe that artists should be paid for their work. Hey friends. I kind of miss getting those messages on my answering machine like we used to back in the day. What I'd really love is to hear from you, the listeners of Dope Nostalgia. This is your chance to be on the show, giving feedback, telling us what you love, what you hate, and who you'd like to see more of. Call us at our new toll-free number, 1-888-741-9192. Leave us some feedback. Your message could be played on the show. So give us a call, 1-888-741-9192. Toll free.